There is a plant that doubles every 2 days, not in perfect conditions, not in laboratories, in any container of still water you can find. A single handful becomes 2 handfuls in 48 hours, 4 handfuls in 4 days. By day 7, you have enough to fill a bathtub. By day 30, you have a ton. This is not an exaggeration. This is mathematics. Exponential growth so aggressive that scientists call it the fastest growing plant on Earth. But speed is not what makes this plant dangerous. This plant contains 45% protein by dry weight. Eggs contain 12%, beef contains 26%, chicken contains 31%. This plant beats them all. And it is not incomplete protein, not the kind you find in beans that needs to be combined with grains. This is complete protein. All 9 essential amino acids in ratios that match what the human body actually needs. 1 square metre of water surface, 30 days of growth, enough protein to feed a person for a month. No soil, no fertilizer, no tractors, no irrigation, no pesticides, no labour beyond harvesting, just water and sunlight. The plant has a name. Scientists call it lemna. The rest of the world calls it duckweed. That green film you see on ponds and ditches, that scum you have been trained to find disgusting, that is not pond scum. That is the most efficient protein production system ever discovered. 1 acre of duckweed produces 10 times more protein than 1 acre of soybeans. It produces 20 times more protein than 1 acre of corn. It produces food faster than any agricultural system humans have ever devised. And it does something else. Something that should have made it the most valuable crop on Earth. It purifies water while it grows. Duckweed absorbs nitrogen, it absorbs phosphorus, it absorbs heavy metals, it takes agricultural runoff that would poison rivers and converts it into edible protein. It cleans the water and feeds you at the same time. A plant that grows anywhere, that requires nothing, that produces complete protein faster than any crop in human history, that purifies water as a byproduct. This should be in every backyard, every rooftop, every community garden, every refugee camp, every food desert, every place where hunger exists. Instead, it is illegal to cultivate in most of the developed world. They call it invasive, they call it a nuisance, they call it something to be eradicated. They have spent billions making sure you never learn what it actually is. The people of Southeast Asia never forgot. In Thailand they call it phum, in Myanmar it is called ye kayan. In Laos, Cambodia and Vietnam it has been harvested from rice paddies for longer than written records exist. This was not a famine food. This was not a desperation measure. This was a staple protein source for civilizations that thrived for millennia. The oldest references appear in Chinese agricultural texts from 200 BCE. Farmers noticed that ponds with duckweed produced healthier fish. They noticed that rice paddies with duckweed needed less fertilizer. They noticed that livestock-fed duckweed grew faster and stronger. They did not understand nitrogen cycles. They did not understand protein synthesis. They understood results. The practice spread across Asia. Integrated systems emerged. Rice paddies grew duckweed on the surface. Fish lived beneath, eating the excess. Pigs and chickens ate harvested duckweed from the edges. The waste from the animals fertilized the water. The duckweed cleaned it again. 0 external inputs. Complete nutritional cycles. Food systems that sustained themselves for centuries. When European explorers reached Southeast Asia, they documented these practices with astonishment. A Portuguese missionary in 1590 wrote about villages that grew meat without pastures. He could not understand how protein appeared from green water. The knowledge existed. The systems worked. Millions of people depended on them. Then colonialism arrived. European agricultural models did not include pond cultivation. They did not include integrated aquatic systems. They included land ownership, monoculture crops, and purchased inputs. The colonial administrations dismantled traditional systems. They drained wetlands. They prioritized rice exports over nutritional diversity. They classified duckweed cultivation as primitive. Within 2 generations, knowledge that had sustained civilizations began to disappear. But not everywhere. In Bangladesh, the poorest communities kept growing it. They had no choice. In rural Myanmar, families maintained backyard ponds. In the Mekong Delta, elderly farmers remembered the old ways. The knowledge survived in the margins, among people too poor to abandon what worked, among communities too remote for agricultural modernization to reach. They kept growing the fastest protein on Earth, while the rest of the world learned to call it a weed. NASA discovered duckweed in 1985. They were searching for the perfect space crop. The requirements were extreme. It needed to grow fast in confined spaces, produce complete nutrition, recycle wastewater, and generate oxygen. Duckweed did all four. The research appeared in the journal Advances in Space Research, and the data shocked even the scientists who collected it. Protein content was 45% of dry weight. Growth rate showed a doubling time of 48 hours. Water purification removed up to 99% of nitrogen. No other plant came close. A follow-up study at the NASA Kennedy Space Center calculated the yield potential. 1 hectare of duckweed surface could produce 140 tons of dry protein per year. By comparison, soybeans produce less than 1 ton per hectare per year. That is 140 times more efficient. The amino acid profile was analysed at Rutgers University in 2009. The results were published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry. Duckweed protein matched the FAO requirements for human nutrition almost perfectly. The limiting amino acid was methionine, but levels still exceeded minimum requirements. This was not animal feed quality. This was human food quality. Researchers at the University of Jena in Germany took it further. They fed duckweed to human subjects in controlled trials. Digestibility was 93%. Bioavailability was comparable to egg protein. Taste was mild, slightly nutty. No adverse effects were observed. The paper was published in 2014. The conclusion was unambiguous. Duckweed is suitable for direct human consumption. Then came the water studies. The Bangladesh University of Engineering and Technology demonstrated that duckweed could remove 95% of nitrogen and 70% of phosphorus from wastewater. The plant did not just tolerate pollution, it ate pollution. A pilot project in Dhaka processed sewage through duckweed lagoons. The output water was clean enough for irrigation. The harvested duckweed was fed to fish farms. The fish were sold in local markets. Waste became protein. Cost per kilogram of protein produced was less than 10 cents. The World Bank funded a comprehensive review in 2019. Researchers analysed 17 years of duckweed studies from 12 countries. The conclusion filled 40 pages, but could be summarised in one sentence. Duckweed is the most resource-efficient protein source available to humanity. The science was settled. The data was overwhelming. The implications were revolutionary. So why is it not on every table? Why is it not in every grocery store? Why have most people never heard of it? In the United States, duckweed is classified as an aquatic nuisance species in 37 states. Cultivating it requires permits. Transporting it across state lines can result in fines. In some jurisdictions, it is illegal to possess. The official reason is ecological protection. Duckweed spreads rapidly. It can cover ponds and block sunlight. It can disrupt existing ecosystems. This is true. It is also true of every successful crop in human history. Wheat spreads aggressively. Corn outcompetes native plants. Soybeans require massive habitat destruction to cultivate. Industrial agriculture has converted 1 billion acres of wilderness into monoculture farmland. No one banned those, but duckweed is different. Duckweed does not require purchased seeds. It does not require purchased fertilizer. It does not require purchased pesticides. It does not require purchased equipment. You can start a duckweed farm with a plastic container and a handful of plants from any pond. That is the problem. The global animal feed industry generates $400 billion annually. Soy protein dominates that market. Corn supplements it. Both require massive infrastructure. Both require annual seed purchases. Both require chemical inputs. Duckweed requires none of that. It costs almost nothing to produce. It grows faster than supply chains can justify. It makes the entire feed industry model obsolete. The same pattern holds for human protein supplements. Whey protein is a $20 billion market. Protein powders, bars and shakes depend on expensive processing and premium positioning. Duckweed powder costs less to produce than the packaging it would come in. Environmental regulations provide convenient cover. Classifying duckweed as invasive makes commercial cultivation nearly impossible. Permit requirements add costs and bureaucratic barriers. The handful of startups that have tried to enter the market face years of regulatory review. Meanwhile, the plant that could solve global protein shortage sits on every pond in America, classified as a nuisance, legally prohibited from commercial development. And the people who could benefit most, small farmers, food-insecure communities, developing nations, are told it is too dangerous to grow. Too dangerous. A plant that has been eaten safely for 3,000 years. Too dangerous. A plant that NASA selected to feed astronauts. Too dangerous. A plant that the World Bank identified as the most efficient protein source available. The regulations are not protecting ecosystems, they are protecting profit margins, and you are paying the price in expensive protein, depleted soil, and polluted water. You do not need permission to feed yourself. Here is what they will not tell you. The regulations that restrict duckweed apply to commercial operations and natural waterways. They do not apply to closed containers on private property. A plastic tub in your backyard is not a regulated waterway. A stock tank on your patio is not a commercial operation. A kiddie pool on your balcony is not subject to aquatic nuisance laws. You can grow duckweed legally almost anywhere. The setup costs less than $20. One container, some water, a handful of starter plants. That is the entire investment. Within 2 weeks, you will have more than you can use. Duckweed can be dried and ground into protein powder. It can be fed directly to chickens that convert it into eggs with 30% higher omega-3 content. It can be fed to fish in backyard aquaponics systems. It can be added fresh to smoothies, salads, and soups. 1 square meter of surface produces over 1 kilogram of protein per month. The advanced applications are even more powerful. Duckweed can process grey water from your home. It can clean fish tank waste in aquaponics loops. It can convert nitrogen-rich runoff into food instead of pollution. You can build a closed-loop protein system that costs nothing to operate. This is not theoretical. People are doing it now. Homesteaders in Florida grow duckweed to feed tilapia that feed their families. Urban farmers in Detroit use it to supplement chicken feed and cut costs by half. Permaculture operations across the developing world have integrated duckweed into sustainable food systems. The knowledge is spreading, despite the regulations, despite the lack of commercial support, despite the deliberate suppression. Because once people see the math, they cannot unsee it. 45% protein, it doubles every 2 days, complete amino acids, 0 inputs required. This is not a supplement, this is a revolution. The industrial food system has taught you that protein is expensive, that food requires inputs, that you must be dependent on supply chains you do not control. Duckweed tells a different story. It tells the story of abundance without permission, of protein without corporations, of food sovereignty in a plastic container. Every pond already contains it. Every warm water surface can grow it. The infrastructure is everywhere, waiting to be activated. The only barrier is knowledge. Now you have it. A handful of duckweed, a container of water, 2 weeks of patience. That is the distance between you and free protein forever. Subscribe to this channel and join the growing community of people who refuse to accept artificial scarcity. The most efficient protein on Earth is growing in ditches, while corporations tell you to buy their products. It is time to stop asking permission. The pond scum is waiting, and it is going to change everything.